The cameras flashed like lightning as Senator John Kennedy stepped onto the stage. The crowd wasn't there for glamour or glitz, they were there for answers. It was a town hall in a small Louisiana community that had seen better days. The air was heavy with humidity and frustration. People were angry about jobs, about taxes, about politicians who looked too polished and spoke too little truth. But Kennedy, dressed in a plain gray suit that looked like it cost less than a reporter's shoes, walked with a calm confidence that didn't need a designer label. Senator Kennedy, a young reporter from a national outlet, called out, her voice sharp and cutting. "Is it true you wore that same suit 3 times this week? Don't you think a public figure should present himself better to the nation?" The crowd went silent. A few reporters chuckled under their breath, waiting for Kennedy's reaction. The moment was made for a headline, a perfect clip to mock on late-night TV. But Kennedy didn't flinch. He smiled faintly, looked down at his suit, and said quietly, "Ma'am, this suit cost me about $200. I bought it 10 years ago, and it still fits. But you see," he paused and slowly turned toward the crowd. "I didn't come here to model for magazines. I came here to serve people who can't afford to buy a new one." He pointed toward the front row, where a woman sat quietly with her hands clasped in her lap. Her hair was neatly tied, but her eyes carried the kind of weight no words could describe. Kennedy's tone softened. "Do you see that woman sitting there?" he asked the reporter. "That's Mrs. Valerie Brooks. Her husband, Sergeant Daniel Brooks, was killed overseas last year. She's raising 2 children on her own. The government promised her support, but she's still waiting on paperwork, still struggling to pay the bills. And yet, she showed up here tonight to listen, not to judge." The room grew so quiet that the faint hum of the air conditioner sounded like thunder. Kennedy continued, his voice now heavy with emotion. "When Daniel left for his last tour, he wrote her a letter. I've read it. He said, 'If anything happens to me, promise me you'll keep believing in this country, because there are still good men and women trying to make it better.'" He turned back to the reporter. "So no, ma'am, I'm not ashamed of this suit. It's not made to impress, it's made to remind me who I'm fighting for." A hush fell over the entire hall. The reporter lowered her microphone, her face pale with embarrassment. Kennedy didn't humiliate her further, he didn't need to. The truth had already done that. He turned back to the audience, his hands folded in front of him. "We've gotten too used to measuring worth by what a man wears instead of what he stands for. I don't need an expensive suit to prove I care. My worth comes from the promises I keep, and I promise you this, I will fight for people like Valerie until this government remembers who it serves." Applause erupted.